Hello everyone and welcome back to the 5th season of Dungeons & Death Battles as we continue on our journey to find the most lethal monster in all of Dungeons & Dragons. In this season, as with those that have come before it, 16 deadly dungeon denizens will be facing off against each other until we find the most barbaric of the bunch. This, of course, being the CR5 season. The rules of the arena are simple. Combatants start 30 feet apart. There is no fleeing the arena, no outside influences allowed, and victory is achieved by kill only. Due to some very specific shenanigans last season, the kobold mob that runs the arena have seen it fit to install a 150-foot high ceiling, and have ruled that any creature leaving the arena via any means of teleportation, astral trickery, or the like must return to the material plane within one turn or be disqualified, and likely consumed by the arena arbiters. We don't know exactly what they are, but they sound absolutely terrifying, so best obey the rules. In today's blue corner, stomping its way in from the rugged highlands, we have the champion of chaotic hunger, the titan of terrible manners, a walking landslide in and of its own right. We of course have the hill giant, huge, hungry, and ready to turn anything smaller than itself into either a snack or a smear. This creature is ready to brawl. And then in today's red corner, arriving in a burst of brimstone hotter than a wizard's fireball, this spike-covered menace comes to us having crawled straight from the nine hells with excessive enthusiasm. Give it up for the infernal pin-cushion of pain, none other than the Barbed Devil, emotionally cold, cruel, and contractually obligated to enjoy every second of this. Now currently, the two teams are busy preparing their champions for glorious combat, which does mean that we have time for a combatant analysis as always. Now as we drop into the blue corner for the hill giant, this Hulk barges its way into the arena with an AC of 13 and hit point average of 105. This monster is well known for its rather destructive answer to most problems, swinging in with a strength of 21, which will be backed up by a 19 constitution that in turn allows it to shrug off all but the most dangerous of physical responses. Now the giant doesn't possess any standout resistances, but it does wield a tree as a club, and this hits with a +8 modifier, dealing 3d8 plus 5 points of damage and inflicting the struck party with the prone condition should it happen to be large or smaller. This creature can also reach deep into its pockets to produce and hurl a pile of trash at its foes, the grimy lump also hitting with a +8 modifier and dealing 2d10 plus 5 points of bludgeoning damage, as well as rendering the target poisoned until the end of its next turn. The giant can use its multi-attack to use 2 of these in any combination, making it lethal both in melee combat and at range, with Trash Lop in fact having a range of up to 240 feet. However, the red corner houses a fighter that will not make the hill giant's job easy tonight, as the Barbed Devil strides forth, boasting an AC of 15 and the slightly higher hit point average of 110. This fiend rocks an incredibly balanced set of stats, with nothing below a 12 and 18 in constitution and 17 in dexterity as highlights. The devil follows suit with its many kin and has resistances to cold damage, as well as immunity to fire and poison damage, as well as the poisoned condition. On top of that, the infernal hellion is a mage's bane, with magic resistance granting it advantage on saving throws against spells and other magical effects, although that won't be of much use today, as the hill giant is about as mundane in technique as they come. While that may not be overly useful in today's battle, the Barbed Devil's potent multi-attack will be, as it is capable of lashing out with its claws, dealing 2d6 plus 3 points of slashing damage on a hit, as well as grappling a large or smaller creature. It can then strike in with its pronged tail, dealing 2d10 plus 3 points of slashing damage, with both attacks hitting on a +6 modifier. The devil can of course also hurl flame, which deals a devastating 5d6 points of fire damage and hitting on a 5+, with a range of 150 feet. The Barbed Devil can also make use of its namesake barbed hide, dealing 1d10 points of piercing damage to any creature that is grappling it or being grappled by it. One is powered by raw muscle and an empty stomach, and the other pushed on by spite, fire, and centuries of career dissatisfaction. These two monsters didn't come here to talk philosophy today, and in fact, I doubt the hill giant even knows what that means. They came here to see who hits harder and who stops moving first. Now as we look around the arena, the crowd looks prepared, and the kobolds down below look ready for a brawl, which can only mean one thing, and that of course is that it is time to roll for initiative, starting with the blue corner, the hill giant, and its +2 modifier. So rolling in right here for the hill Hill Giant a +2 to this, as it rolls in with a very respectable 11, with that 2 modifier topping that up to make for a 13, which does mean that the Barbed Devil needs to roll something a little bit special here to take that pole position. So Barbed Devil rolling in, it does get a +3 to its modifier, so a 10 or higher on this dice. And with a 17 +3 for 20, the Barbed Devil will be going first in this quarter-final battle as Giant takes on Fiend. Let's see what happens. And kicking things off, the Devil is going to weigh up the situation, seeing the much larger foe standing before it. And to kick things off, it is going to throw in with 2 hurl flame attacks, as it does aim to incinerate the Hill Giant early on. And therefore, it will be rolling in with 2 sets of attacks right here. So +5 to hit, looking to beat the Hill Giant's AC of 13. And that is in with an 11 +5 for 16, which does mean that that first ball of flame strikes true, as the Devil will now be dealing 5d6 points of fire damage. So rolling in, let's see just how much this inflicts. And that is a decent roll right there, with 2 4s for 8, plus that 3, topping that up to 11. Another 1 there, of course, for 12, plus that 6 there to make for 18 points of damage from that first strike, which will be dropping the Hill Giant from 105 to 87 hit points as a second flame barrage rolls in. So let's see if the Devil can make a second connection right here. But not with a natural one, it can't. That one is going to absolutely skew off to the side as the Hill Giant dodges out of the way of the second attack. With that, the Barbed Devil is going to take one look at its monstrous foe and is going to turn around looking for options here. Now, the Devil does indeed have a climb speed, which means that it is going to see the side of the arena right here and is going to begin to ascend the walls of the cages, managing to make it all the way up to the top, although not quite being able to push forward into any cover from this position. Does mean that we will be handing over to the Hill Giant, which is going to match the Barbed Devil's energy and is going to engage its trash lob, but not before moving to make sure that it is indeed within that 60-foot range of the Barbed Devil, in order to ensure this is going to roll in flat and not at disadvantage. And now the Hill Giant will be rolling this in with a massive +8 as it looks to beat the Barbed Devil's AC of 15. The first trash lob rolling in, and that is a 6, with +8 only topping that up to 14, which does mean that that first attack is going to miss, as a succulent helping of dissolved flesh just flies over the Barbed Devil's head. We do roll in for the second attack right here. Of course, the Hill Giant has its multi-attack too. That will be a 10 +8 for 18, which does mean that that second ball of trash strikes true, and the Devil will now be subject to 2d10 +5 points of bludgeoning damage. So rolling in right here, let's see if the Hill Giant can best the Barbed Devil for damage output. Oh, what with 2 3s? +5 on that modifier to make for 11 points of damage. And those 11 points of damage will be dropping the Barbed Devil from 110 to 99 hit points, as the ranged battle does seem to have taken precedence here in the arena. We await for the Barbed Devil's next move, the Hill Giant having moved his maximum distance in this round. And the Devil is going to continue on the path that it started on, throwing in with 2 more hurl flame attacks, as it does understandably want to stay as far away from that Hill Giant as possible. And with that, it will be rolling in once again, 2 more hurl flame attacks, +5s to these. And with a 9 +5 for 14, that first strike has made it through the Hill Giant's defenses, as yet another 5d6 points of damage head the Hill Giant's way, with yet another very decent roll on those dice, with 4 and a 3 for 7, +5 for 12, topped up by that 3 there for 15, and of course that 4 adding on there at the end to make for another 19 points of damage, which will drop the Hill Giant down to just 68 hit points, as yet again another ball of flame hurls towards the Giant's position. The Hellion on top of the cage, absolutely committed to bringing its opponent down before it gets too close, and as such, another attack rolls in with a 17 +5 for 22. That is another hit there. The Barbed Devil is committed to bringing the Giant down, as those flaming dice roll in again. And for an absolutely monstrous hit, no less, with those 2 6s for 12, +4 for 16, of course topped up by that 3 and that 2 to make for another 21 points of damage, as the Giant is brought from 68 to 47 hit points in this second round of combat. Things are starting to look pretty rough for the Giant. The Barbed Devil strategy of escaping up onto the top of the cages seemingly working out for it at the moment. And once again, it will use its movement to get further away from the Hill Giant, as it utilizes its climb speed very effectively. But with that said, we once again will hand back over to the Hill Giant, which is going to continue to pursue its flaming foe. And as we have previously established, the walls of the arena are 20 feet high, and the Giant, given its size, is going to be able to mount up the side. We'll be able to climb up after the Barbed Devil, and it will be doing this at half speed, so that 20-foot climb is going to take its full 40 feet of movement. But in a surprise turn of events, and maybe the Barbed Devil did not foresee this, but the giant is now on top of the cages as well, and is in hot pursuit of its devilish foe. But at the current time, it is unable to reach it, which does mean that it will be throwing in with more trash lobs. Although with that climb, it has managed to get within 60 feet. So these will be straight yet again. So Hill Giant rolling in. First trash lob right here. Although with a 5+8, that is still not going to connect. That will only total for 13. However, it does, of course, have another one to roll in with. Oh, there we go. With a 15+8 instead for 23. That is much more like it. And the Barbed Devil will once again be on the receiving end of being hit by what looks like some kind of molded through pumpkin, which surprisingly enough will be dealing 2d10 plus 5 points of bludgeoning damage. The Barbed Devil, of course, avoiding the poisoned condition as it is immune, but it is not immune to bludgeoning damage, and therefore it will be taking 2d10 plus 5 points of it. And that is a slightly better roll than last time, with an 8 and a 2 for 10, topped up by that 5-point modifier to make for 15 points of damage, which will be dropping the devil from 99 to 84 hit points. The giant bellowing as it clearly wanted more out of this, some frustration probably crossing through its addled mind as the Barbed Devil continues to just elude it on the cage tops. But having found flatter ground on top of the arena, the Hill Giant may be able to make more ground next turn. But having said that, we are on the Barbed Devil's turn, and it is really enjoying its strategy of staying at range and just hurling flames. And so that is exactly what it is going to continue to do. The giant, of course, making itself a very easy target, standing head and shoulders above the detritus that surrounds it, making it a very easy target for the devil as it throws in once again with that hurl flame attack. 2 lots of +5s rolling in here. First one coming through, and with an 8 plus 5 for 13. That is going to be bang on the money, as the Hill Giant's pure size just makes it such an obvious target. Barbed Devil managing to slip yet another attack through, which will once again be dealing the full bore of 5d6 points of fire damage to the Hill Giant, who are rolling in with a slightly less impressive spread of dice there, although there is a 6, and that 6 will be added to that 3 to make for 9, plus 1 for 10, and of course topped up by those pair of 2s there to make for 14 points of damage total, which will be dropping the Hill Giant from 47 to 33 hit points, as yet again a second blazing ball heads the Hill Giant's direction. Can it make landfall for a second time? But with a 4! That is not going to be high enough, as 4 plus 5 is only going to total a 9, and the Hill Giant does indeed manage to evade this one at least. And with that, the Barbed Devil is going to realize that things are getting a little bit tense up here, and it is going to use its 30 feet of movement to head back around away from the Hill Giant's position, climbing further and further into the back end of the arena. And we may take this time to assure you that we do have backups in place to prevent the combatants from busting forth into the audience stands, so keep your seats as the battle rages on. And we do hand over to the Hill Giant, which is going to continue on in hot pursuit of the Barbed Devil as it does attempt to corner the creature against some of the cages, although the devil is clearly outthinking its opponent and is using its wit to carve the optimal path through the cage line, which does mean that still at the current time the Hill Giant is at range and will be needing to rely on that trash lob in order to connect with the Barbed Devil. Its intelligence of 5 not really providing it much in the way of puzzle solving or route planning. The Barbed Devil will remain with the advantage there. But anyway, doesn't matter if you've got advantage in the brain department if you get hit by enough trash. And that is what the Hill Giant strategy is going to be hinging on at this current moment in time, as it does throw in with yet again another pair of trash lobs. So first one rolling in again, +8 to hit right here. With an 8 plus 8 for 16, that is going to connect with the devil. Once again hitting in with 2d10 plus 5 points of bludgeoning damage, and a 7 plus 2 there for 9 is going to be topped up by the 5-point modifier to make for 14 points of damage, dropping the Barbed Devil from 84 to 70 hit points as the second one rolls in. And with an offhand strike, the Hill Giant has rolled consecutive 8, which will be plenty, yet again rolling in for a total of 16, which does mean that the Barbed Devil will now be taking a second lot of 2d10 plus 5 points of bludgeoning damage. Although it is absolutely fortunate for the creature that it is immune to the poison condition, otherwise this could have been getting much nastier much more quickly. But that being said, damage shall be rolled, and that is absolutely hideous damage output from the Hill Giant. It's like most of that trash got stuck on one of the corners of the cages, and the Barbed Devil has merely been graced by some kind of semi-acidic detritus there. Bludgeoning damage, a bone perhaps connecting to the chin, but nothing too lethal, with a 2 and a 1 on those D10s, making for 3, plus that 5-point modifier, the saving grace, to bring that all the way up to 8 points of damage, which will be dropping the Barbed Devil from 70 to 62 hit points as the creature grins at the Hill Giant's misfortune here as it makes its way onto the top of another one of the cages before unleashing yet again 2 more hurl flame attacks. The Barbed Devil looking to put an end to this combat as soon as possible. And it is a step closer to that goal as it rolls in with a 10 plus 5 to make for 15, which versus the Hill Giant's AC of 13 is gonna be a hit. As yet again the Hill Giant gets treated to another 5d6 points of fire damage being thrown straight into its face. And that is an absolutely monstrous strike there. Even though one of those dice were cocked, that quick reroll has dropped in with an absolutely cataclysmic output there from the Barbed Devil. With those 2 6s there for 12, plus those 2 5s for 22, and topped up by that straggling 4 to make for 26 points of fire damage. That is an outrageous amount right there, with the Barbed Devil dropping the Hill Giant from 33 to just 7 hit points. What a hit there from the Barbed Devil, and it wasn't even a critical. And what makes it even sweeter is that the Barbed Devil does still have another attack to roll in with. Of course, that was only the first, and thus it will be striking in yet again. Another hurl flame burning in its palm, preparing to leave, flinging in the direction of the Hill Giant. So rolling in. And with a 13 plus 5 for 8, that is going to be yet another strike. They say lightning doesn't strike in the same place twice, but the same cannot be said quite clearly for flame, as yet another torrent of 5d6 points of fire damage rolls in towards the Hill Giant. And while that may be less damage, it is certainly going to be enough to end the Hill Giant's career, with 2 2s for 4, plus the 2 4s for 12, topped up by that 1 to make for 13 more points of damage, and with 7 hit points remaining, that will be plenty to take the Hill Giant out of the tournament as the Barbed Devil proclaims its glorious dominance. Its masters down in the 9 Hells will be pleased with its performance here tonight, as it drops one of the largest combatants in the tournament without even having to step within 5 feet of it. And as the Hill Giant burns and smolders away on the top of the cages here, that does of course mean that the Barbed Devil will be ascending up into the semi-final round of the CR5 League, where it will be 1 step closer to securing the grand title of CR5 champion. And with that, we do of course have only 1 qualifying bout remaining, which will see the Boule take on the young Crystal Dragon. See which one of these creatures will be the last of the quarterfinalists to make it through into the semi-finals. And now of course, if you did enjoy what you saw here tonight, please consider dropping a like on the video, commenting down below, subscribing to the channel, and of course hyping it up, which in turn all helps to push these combats to new viewers, which helps grow the channel and thus grow the arena and the surrounding community. As always, I would like to thank you all very, very much for watching, and I will see you in another battle very soon.